Councillor Dikerdem.
Hi, so the first thing I want to say is how ridiculous the Conservative wrecking amendment is, because I think it's completely out of order to delete the entire body of the motion, apart from the phrase, "this council believes." It then goes on to replace the entire text, as well as arguing against itself as a motion. So I think procedurally, this sets a ridiculous precedent on how amendments are used, and I think it's shoddy from the Conservative group on an issue like this. There is nothing in the proposal we have submitted that any reasonable person would object to. And I'd recommend members of the public at home who are watching, that you read through what we have come up with. We simply want Wandsworth to do what councils up and down the country are starting to do, which is to take the initiative and show leadership on decolonising the curriculum. Hackney, for instance, has co-produced with local teachers and educationalists a body of resources. And here in Wandsworth, schools themselves have already started this work and want support and to support each other. The members of the opposite bench claim to celebrate this in their amendment, but they act as if they have no role to play. The council regularly makes recommendations to our schools on a whole host of things. I've referenced before the active role in our policy around exclusions, which is a clear issue regarding race, which was identified, and the council worked with schools to try and improve it. It's called local government. We are meant to govern. What's more, the council does claim credit when it wants to. I remember during the Black Lives Matter debate in the summer, one Conservative councillor reading almost verbatim the NEU newsletter, unaccredited of course, celebrating the work that was being done locally on decolonising the curriculum. So what is behind the blockage on something we claim to be having common ground on? Why have we had to reference this up and vote differently at committee? The record shows Wandsworth Conservatives have a problem with the wording decolonising. This despite singing the praises of the Decolonising Education Wandsworth campaign that spoke to us at committee, and the mention of the phrase in the council's own report, a phrase that not a single head teacher in Wandsworth has ever complained to the campaign about, or in fact most of them use. I worry that this is part of a strange culture war politics pushed by the Conservative government, and to avoid the state being used to directly challenge inequalities and injustice, and instead letting them fester. Many of us in this room will recognise that when we were taught Victorian history at school, okay, these were not necessarily pro-empire, but empire was not interrogated. It was taken as a natural sort of thing of the time. And if dissenting voices were used as source material, they were never from colonial subjects themselves. To decolonise a curriculum is to critically evaluate the assumptions and starting points that we often take for granted, but which leave many of our young people, particularly in Wandsworth, alienated or cut off from narratives that they are learning about. Our schools know this, which is why so many of them have been doing this fantastic work, again, which you claim to celebrate. Again, I want to highlight the work of the NEU and teachers across Wandsworth, particularly head teachers in my own ward, who have embraced this. But like you say, with schools juggling so much at the moment, it's easy for those with expertise in this area to thrive, while others put it off. And we can't leave it to the pedagogical market, so to speak, as some schools will fall through the cracks. And our kids our kids can't rely on that. We want the council to take ownership and to work with schools for all schools. And this is why we want leadership from Wandsworth and the recommendations we have put forward. It's interesting that Conservatives have shifted their argument to being against interfering in schools, an argument that is contradictory. To support schools in decolonising would be in line with the government's own guidance on how to diversify the national curriculum and fit perfectly into Ofsted's new guidance on curriculums being targeted to the needs of pupils. It's also not something outside of the remit of the council, as the government has explicitly said schools can choose topics and resources to stimulate and challenge pupils to reflect on key points in history. The point Councillor Crivelli made about academies also proves our point. We need the council to lead, as there's no uniform standard. And the fact that academies have that freedom is ideal. The council can have influence. We want to help the council and help them and we need the council to expect them to have a uniform standard. Finally, I just want to say, how brilliant is it that young people last summer were taking to the streets, to social media, demanding that they are taught rigorous, critical and diverse histories. It's beautiful, but they're calling for an evaluation of Britain's colonial past, its implications on the production of knowledge. This is something that's deeply moving, long overdue, and something that educationalists should be supporting and celebrating. I desperately hope that we vote for the motion and against what is basically a wrecking amendment by the Wandsworth Conservatives.
Thank you, Councillor Dikerdem.